Let us explore trauma-informed meditation tips. This morning's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. The question begins, recommendations on trauma-informed meditation practices? And the question continues, does anyone have any recommendations on what techniques to use or how to structure a trauma-informed meditation practice? I deal with PTSD and have been meditating on and off, for years. I've tried various techniques and approaches, but I currently need a more trauma-informed approach. Any ideas or experience would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. So let's begin with broad brushstrokes. So I've got to do my due diligence, and here it goes. If you don't have a psychiatrist or psychologist whose specialty is PTSD or CPTSD, then they will do more harm than good. Find someone who eats and breathes and sleeps PTSD. If you can't find one, in the description area below the video, there's a link to a free service. It's pcrm.org/find a doctor. And once again, there's a live link in the description area below the video. They specialize in medical professionals whose continuing education has been shaped by peer-reviewed studies upon lifestyle modalities, lifestyle treatments. These people take it very, very seriously, and they want to help you rapidly in the short term. These people are useful, very, very useful. However, in the interim, I'm going to assume you've paused this tape, clicked the link, and reached out and are waiting for an appointment. In the interim, let's do something about it right now. Several years ago, the psychologist Dr. Tom Hartman, PhD, wrote Walking Your Blues Away. It's an attempt to view the Buddha's walking meditation through the lens of neuroscience, and it does a splendid job. So quick like a bunny, I need to reach for a graphic I failed to load before class. So I'm going to click pictures, and I'm going to go to N and neuroscience, and let's find hippocampus. Here we go. Okay. So this is an artist's version, a simplified version of a cross-section of the human brain. This is the hippocampus. What does it do? Well, you can think of the hippocampus as being the guy on the sidewalk in front of the doors to a dance club. He stands behind the velvet rope and he holds a clipboard. And if your name ain't on the clipboard, you're not getting into the dance club. Similarly, when we experience physically and or emotionally violent experiences, events, or better yet, when we experience events that are so violent, physically, emotionally, or both, our hippocampus crosses its arms and says, no, you cannot enter long-term memory. And so that event is treated as a present moment experience, which is why a trauma might have occurred 50 years ago, but our brain, our central nervous system, the entirety of our body responds to it as a present moment event. That's not because of psychology. That's because of physiology. That's not because of stinking thinking. That's because the way we are wired. But there is a hack. And this has been intuited by complex life forms, by many mammals, and including humans. And here's how it works. Asymmetric somatic stimulation, which is a fancy term for, in other words, briskly walking, swinging your arms, swinging your feet, your legs, briskly walking around the block, can act as if it's massaging the hippocampus. And what happens is it does not erase the event, but it changes the heading of the event. The event is no longer considered present moment. It's considered past. And what will happen is, as we're walking, doing our walking meditation, and I'll explore the nuts and bolts in a few minutes, intermittently things will pop up, directly or indirectly related to the traumatic event. At a certain point, they won't stop popping up, but we will experience them as through a mirror darkly. We will experience them as being past events, not intellectually, but viscerally. And so viscerally, we will be able to sincerely say, well, that sucked, and I hope it doesn't happen again to anybody, ever. As opposed to just losing our shit about it, which is perfectly appropriate for a trauma response. This is why in Crocodile Dundee, the protagonist described that after his divorce, he went for a walkabout to process his feelings. That is why it is recommended when couples are bickering for one of them to leave the house and go for a long walk and cool their heels. We even see this to a certain degree in Forrest Gump. If you were born in the previous century, you might remember that movie. He was in love with a girl. She said she took him to bed. He woke up the next morning and she was gone. And boy, talk about, he thought his dreams had come true because he wanted more than sex. He wanted to live his life with her. And the fact that she had gone, she took all her stuff, and never to be seen again, or so he thought, was a trauma for him. And so he processed it by running. And because it was a Michael Zemeckis film, it was very dramatic and very funny and very moving. But still, walking or running can be ways of processing trauma. Once again, it doesn't get rid of it. It doesn't excise it, and that's important. If we forgot our traumas, we could not learn from them. One of the useful things about traumas is it creates an opportunity for us to recognize destructive patterns or recognize red flags in circumstances and animals, and including humans. Sometimes, for contemporary humans, the greatest predator is on 2 feet. Or as Queen used to sing, death on 2 legs. So, trauma is inconvenient. Trauma can be horrible. It serves an evolutionary purpose, and it can be mitigated. Please don't let people tell you to just get over yourself. Please don't take bad advice from weak-minded people. There are lots of people offering unsolicited advice who have no training, and they do much more harm than good. Having said that, let's take a deeper look into the actual mechanics. Let's focus on what not to do and then what to do. I don't want to say this to be negative, but so that you can prevent prolonging needless suffering, or even making it worse. So let us begin with Sturgeon's law. That explains that 90% of everything sucks, but not in the fun, tingly way. 90% of everything includes people, and 90% of people includes 90% of meditation teachers. There is a demographic who sincerely feel that being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel is powerful and will make your fondest wishes come true. Some of these people may be very sincere, but these attributes will not take you everywhere. They will not take you to peace. They will not take you to joy. They will not take you to love. The attributes that do pave the path of peace and love and joy are the attributes of being flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. But what has that to do with walking meditation? If we received instructions from people who are rigid or controlling, there's a very good chance they will tell us to practice active concentration or active analysis. The only way to do that is to use the discrete mechanisms found in such regions as our medial prefrontal cortex or our dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Now, don't get me wrong, the prefrontal cortex is spectacular if you want to compare, contrast, calculate, analyze, edit. This is your tool. This is your Swiss Army knife. But like a Stradivarius, it can be easily overworked. And the more we overwork this prefrontal cortex, the more our amygdala gets stimulated. The amygdala, this thing that kind of looks like an almond right here, this thing is the seat of our aggression and our anxiety. So imagine the irony of striving to use meditation to treat trauma with the best of intentions, receiving bad instructions to actively analyze or actively concentrate, and then just exacerbating the aggression and anxiety. How darkly ironic would that be? But there's some good news. There are portions within our central nervous system that are ideal for mindfulness and meditation. Not concentration masquerading as mindfulness, but the real McCoy. Check this out. We'll begin with mindfulness, the seventh fold of the Buddha's eightfold path. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to effortlessly and automatically access our sympathetic nervous system. Where is it located? In the middle third of our spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved to help us to perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly, which is the opposite of concentration, which is the opposite of being rigid and fearful and controlling. What are some of the things that we are wired to notice? Of course, we're wired to notice sight, sound, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, but we're also wired to notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. We're wired to notice the external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. And yes, at times that can seem overwhelming, but evolution's got our back. Check this out. Meditation is the eighth fold of the Buddha's eightfold path. And every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we have evolved to effortlessly and automatically access our parasympathetic nervous system. Where is it located? In both the bottom third and the top third of that same spinal cord. What does it evolve to do? It's evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. Oh goodness, what was it? About 8, 9, 10 years ago, there was a Planet Fitness commercial that I thought was very funny, where they kind of made fun of the archetype of the Austrian bodybuilder. And there's a rather buff guy, and he's taking a tour of a gym, and all he can say is, "I pick things up and I put them down." Well, that's pretty much what we're doing in meditation. We're noticing and we're releasing. in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation. So, while striding around your block, and let's face it, if you're in turmoil, you don't want to cross the street. That's too many variables. So just keep walking around your block for 20 or 40 or 60 minutes every 12 hours or so. And when you do so, during the inhalation, silently and mentally recite perceiving. And during the exhalation, silently, mentally, and passively recite the verb releasing. These are not affirmation. Why? Why isn't it? Why aren't those affirmations? Because affirmations are pretty sounding lies we tell ourselves in the hopes of magically changing reality. But they don't work. They're a form of concentration, and they feed our anxiety and aggression. These are simply labels to processes that are automatic, and they're already occurring whether we want them to or not, whether we perceive them or not. And so what is the benefit of silently and mentally labeling these automatic processes? Simple. Instead of our brain acting like the clever and good-hearted yet accident-prone Urkel, forever knocking into things and then asking, did I do that? Our brain begins cooperating with each inhalation, with our sympathetic nervous system as we recite perceiving, and our brain cooperates with our parasympathetic nervous system as we recite releasing. Now, I got to clear things up. Releasing is not a one-time deal. It's like breathing. We breathe in air, we release air. We breathe in air, we release air. No infant says, well, I took my one breath, I think I'm done. No. Throughout our entire lives, we breathe. We live as long as we breathe, and then we become worm food. Similarly, as long as we're breathing, we're noticing and releasing to a certain degree or another. Or I should say to one degree or another. So, releasing doesn't mean shoving away. What are we releasing? We are releasing our resistance to the present moment, whether that present moment be pleasurable, painful, interesting, boring, glorious, or grotesque. And you might say, oh, that sounds like an affirmation. No, all we're doing is labeling a mechanism that's already in play. And by labeling it, we are choosing to cooperate. In my first 3-year retreat, I was taught that words lead intention, and intention leads mind. By playing with these words, we are therapeutically guiding our intention. Good morning, Jay. Happy to have you here. So we don't all have the same fitness levels. We are not all equally abled. But very few physicians will tell you don't go for a walk. So, and listen, if you are differently abled like me, you may wish to walk with an attendant. That's fine. Just let them know ahead of time that you're going to be doing brisk walking meditation, and this isn't a time to shoot the shit. And if they're a good attendant or a good helper, they will respect that. So, once again, it's not concentrating, it's not slow. It's brisk, and it's carefree. So if you like dogs, and as you're going on a walk, you see a dog, and the dog is friendly to you, pet it. That's therapeutic too. As you pass your neighbors, give them a nod or a wave. Don't be a curmudgeon. Don't be a weirdo. That's perfectly okay to do those things. They will actually help. Every time you pet a dog, every time you wave to a neighbor, you're getting a little splash of dopamine. And dopamine is often like the machine oil that lubricates the gears in the clockwork of our brain, metaphorically speaking. So we don't have to be antisocial. We don't have to be curmudgeonly. We don't have to be like the the burglar in the 1960s McDonald's commercials. We don't have to keep our head down and mumble. This can help. This can really help. I've struggled with numerous disabilities that have been exacerbated by CPTSD, and this has really helped me in the past. So I speak from personal experience. Every year, Christmas rolls around, and for many adult survivors of child abuse, that can be a difficult time of year. Walking meditation has helped me to cope with the slings and arrows of a tragic personal history. And I hope it will help you as well. Now that we've talked about walking meditation, I think it could be great fun for us to practice sitting meditation together as a team, which I would like to do so, after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping, assuming I can push the right button in the right sequence. Now, for the sake of editing, it would be helpful if there we go. Now, I can hit button number 6, 3. Here we go. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you won't have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. I think it could be great fun if together as a team we played with the latest iteration of All Good One's Easy Meditation. Let us bring the 4 bases of mindfulness into wisdom's figurative practice of the rainbow body, where we will be leaping over the confusion of pride. Please chant with me. Rather than indulge our controlling tendencies with the follies of active visualization, emotion, magic, and belief, we could just recite these wise words in harmony with our breathing and allow our subconscious to do the heavy lifting. Let us sidestep the rigidity that confuses metaphors for statements literal, and relax into the flexibility that savors the chance explaining metaphors as similes. How could visible circumstances or lots be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this body or form? Allow me to take a moment to insult your intelligence and remind you that we're using melt as a metaphor of impermanence and absorb as a metaphor of interdependence. We're using a gentle verb phrase such as could be instead of the rigid is. And ironically, we're using self-centeredness to transcend self-centeredness. So now we're going to take all these words and compress them down to just 6 syllables, which we're going to divide between our inhalation and our exhalation. How could sensual bodies or forms be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this communication or speech? How could resounding interpersonal speech be as impermanent and interdependent as if it could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this mind? How could lucid minds? Oh, here we got a question. Let's see here. I'll hit that question in a minute. How could lucid? Well, actually, this is a good place to hit it. So let's explore that question right now. I'm going to tap button 8. So when I experience a PTSD flashback, I try very hard to use Bengali crease counting, but lately I'm shaking too much. I think I have to try walking or sprinting meditation. Yes, walking meditation is, and that's great. If you feel you need to sprint, that's wonderful. You can alternate between sprinting and walking, sprinting and walking. Panic is designed 9 times out of 10 to make us flee or charge. So by indulging our sprint reflex, not our jog reflex, but our gung-ho sprint superhero reflex, we are harmonizing with our most ancient neural pathways, which can be very therapeutic. It's kind of like we don't want to frustrate our neural pathways. I think it was Eddie Murphy talked about as a kid in one of McDonald's, and Grandma saying, "You don't need McDonald's. I'll make McDonald's." And you get home, and she makes some hamburgers on the grill, and she piles it on a piece of square bread, and she puts a leaf of lettuce. And although arguably it's probably better than a Big Mac, it wasn't a Big Mac. And so the little rigid child brain was throwing a temper tantrum. So likewise, when our body wants to sprint or charge, and we don't give it that opportunity, it can be deeply, deeply frustrating. So yes, if you feel like sprinting, sprint. If you want to alternate between sprinting and brisk walking, go for it. Now, and if you want to do this regularly, that's great too. Some of us have been through a life of adventure. And what I've found is that although cops are suspicious, they're less suspicious of people running in athletic apparel. So, I mean, clearly, if you're having a panic attack, there's no time to change your clothes. But if you're just planning a once or twice daily walking meditation or sprinting meditation, this can help. I'll be honest with you, there's not a lot of meditation going on when you're sprinting. But but if you need to sprint, sprint. So let's not call it meditation. Let's just call it what it is, sprinting. So you can sprint, and you can't sprint forever. So while you're recovering from the sprint, then you can do walking meditation. And when you're doing walking meditation, there's no need to do crease counting. I hope you find that helpful. So let's get back to it. I'm going to tap button 9. How could minds be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into a vast empty void? Like the illusion of the infinite outer sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although tantalizing to the eye could be non-graspable to the hand. So the contemporary path of Dzogchen can be divided into the 3 T's. Tokal, Tikle, and Treksha. We've just hit Tokal's Leap Over Pride. Now we're going to hit Tikle's Bliss Work. So we're going to start by using Crown Bliss. We're going to invite Vairochana Karma Mudra's own space element out of our crown wheel. We're going to plug into that. Just like way back in the 70s, we would plug our headphones into our stereo with a great big jack. Now we have UBS things, which are not quite the same. That is satisfying. And we're going to do that quite simply by playing with our fingers. So in this picture right here, we see the Buddha sitting with his hands resting in his lap. We can modify that and gingerly rest the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of the index finger of our left hand. And this will help with manage the energy quite nicely. We can now busy ourselves collecting 96 rounds of breath, pretending that a round is simply one inhalation followed by an exhalation. And that might seem overwhelming unless we think of it as 8 sets of 12 reps or 12 rounds. So how do we count the 12 rounds? Simple. On our right hand, we advance the tip of our right thumb during each inhalation. Each inhalation of what? Each inhalation of this ease. What is the most efficient way to practice seated mindfulness? To silently, mentally, and passively recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation. What is the most efficient way to practice seated meditation? To silently, mentally, and passively recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. So let's do this together right now. Oopsie, did it backwards. Got to start with the index finger. So we've counted one set of 12 rounds. How do we count multiple sets of 12 rounds? On our left hand, instead of counting rounds, we count sets. So first set, second set, third set, fourth set, fifth set, sixth set, seventh set, eighth set. I'm happy to hear that, Jay. Or read that, as the case may be. Let us now access Akshobhya Karma Mudra's Hum water element at our heart wheel. This time by resting the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger gingerly upon the tip of our left middle finger as we set our hands in our lap. And by the way, I mentioned the three T's. This practice of this ease, or spontaneous awareness and release, is the Trekcho practice. So this super easy, simple practice is the essence of Buddhist Tantra. Some people are very rigid and say that you must stare straight ahead while practicing meditation. Others say you must close your eyes. So there are so many variables. We close our eyes tightly or relaxed. We can open our eyes wide or relaxed. Our eyes can gaze at the sky, at the horizon, or the earth. Listen to your body. It has great wisdom. We now access Ratna Sambhava Karma Mudra's Tram Earth element at our navel wheel by simply resting the great knuckle at the base of our left ring finger upon the tip, gingerly upon the tip of the left ring finger in our lap. Let us access Amagosidi Karamamundra's wind element at our Shrikurt wheel between our navel and our crotch. To access it, let us gingerly rest the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger upon the tip of our left little finger in our lap. Together. I invoke the teachers of action, of meditation, and Hung View. That the Benzatanda Guru teaches me my enlightenment and siddhi abilities, who may be mastered by all. As we breathe in, we can silently and mentally recite relaxing into this. As we exhale, we can physically relax as best we can while striving to chant these 12 syllables 4 times per breath. And if this is your first time hanging out with me or hunging out with me, please give yourself permission to have a learning curve. Om Ahum Benzo Guru Me Maziri Hung. 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 Om maziri hun. Om Ahum Benzo Guru Me 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 Om Mahung Benzo Guru Me Maziri Hung. 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 May all circumstances or lots of all beings now have their safe good fortune or boon. As a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, pure land or Vanti. So we're taking these loving wishes and we're condensing them down into 6 syllables, which we're dividing between our inhalation and our exhalation. May all clear minds of all beings know be as peacefully enlightened as the mind of a real or imagined Buddha, symbolized by Yati Clay, one syllable, zero bija mantra. May all relationships or speech of all beings know be as joyfully loving as a real or imagined Buddha speech, symbolized by a horizontal mala mantra. May all bodies or forms of all beings now enjoy the beautiful health seen in Buddha's statuary, depicting the blissful body of a real or imagined Yadama, an archetype of enlightenment such as Kuntu Zangpo. Let us conclude by chanting the wishes for the preservation of the Buddha's teachings. May every meditation teacher truly understand the Buddha's teachings and practice master as well as teach him generously, lovingly, and wisely in the manner of centered spontaneity. May all meditation teachers spontaneously receive generous patrons, enthusiastic students, as well as devoted apprentices. And may many Dharma centers likewise be successfully planted, nurtured, and supported. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10.5 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.